Let's see if I can make this a little better than my last night's confessional. We just came in from, we drove over to the DMV. Welcome to Solo Iced Coffee. We drove over to the DMV to see if we could get Gio's PA Real ID done. And it was beyond packed at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And it closes at 4:15, so I don't know, there's no way they're gonna get all these people through. So we're gonna go get up early tomorrow and be over there for when they open at 8:30, because he needs to get his Real ID. We walked today our 3 laps, and what else did we do? He signed some papers he needed to sign, and I made 7 chocolate chip waffles and popped them in the freezer. And I did tofu in the air fryer today for the first time. So I've done tofu, I've done Brussels sprouts, I've done pierogies, I've done chicken fingers, and I did do broccoli. That did not turn out well at all, not at all. I've made banana nut chocolate chip bread in the oven. I've made muffins, strawberry shortcake, banana nut muffins, banana nut chocolate chip muffins, blueberry muffins, fresh blueberry muffins, apple crisp bars I've done. So I want to see in the store, I want to see if there's pumpkin in the can. If there is, I'd like to make a couple of pumpkin pies, which are like one of my favorite things to bake. I'm not big on baking cookies, but there's still more good recipes in the Dash Diet book. So tomorrow morning we're going to go over to the DMV early. That's the goal, and get his Real ID done, and then in the afternoon meet up with our old friend Dave and have a coffee at McDonald's. But speaking of coffee, take a look. If you're new here, welcome. Hit the subscribe, please. I'm trying to get up to 1,000 subscribers. I'm at like 845. So I need like 155 people-ish. It's April the 9th, and we're going to talk Zen sex. Actually, we're going to talk intimacy. But when I met Sky, he said to me, one of the first things he said to me, because we are both practicing Zen Buddhists. And he said, who the heck was that? Somebody running. He said, Poet, get this book, Zen Sex. So if you want to read an interesting book, Philip Toshio Sudo is the author. It is 186 pages, and a lot of them are like this. Okay, so it's easy read. If you want to learn about Zen sex, so it says, but I'm going to talk about intimacy. But if you're interested in the book, if this piqued your interest, and I don't know what I paid for this. I've had this for quite a while. This is from the year 2000, and it says, at its best, sex takes us back to the beginning, transcending mere fulfillment of our animal desires to reveal our inherent divinity as creators. It becomes a spiritual endeavor, as profound as any religious rite or ritual. each act symbolizing the origin of life. In Zen, every moment is a chance to lose ourselves in the substance of life, every encounter an opportunity for spiritual awakening. In this passionate and inspiring guide, Philip Toshio Sudo explains the Zen of sex. Don't try, do, say Zen masters. Put technique aside, stop fretting over sexual frequency, love your body, frolic, tease, make love. All it takes to be a good Zen lover is a giving heart and the awareness of the life force coursing through our bodies. Zen sex will help you cultivate that love within the capacity for feeling ecstasy and giving joy that is nothing short of divine. Anyone who desires more fulfilling sex can put the classic Zen principles offered here into practice in their loves and lives. Zen parables, koans, and poems illuminate Sudo's message. Meditations encourage pause and reflection, and exercises get you started on the way of making love Zen style. Great sex, Zen sex, reminds us of what we are ever alive and full of love, that we are ever alive and full of love. In making love, our bodies intertwined, we are at one with ourselves, each other, and with the very source of life. Every night of passion becomes an opportunity to elevate the human spirit. If you're interested, this is a pretty cool book to read. I've read it maybe, I don't know, at least 3 times, 4 times. It's not that expensive. But let's talk intimacy as opposed to that part. I don't think I've done a video on intimacy that I've put out. I've talked about intimacy in videos that I've deleted, but let's talk intimacy because intimacy goes across the board. Intimacy is not what you do, just what you do in the bedroom, because that a lot of times ultimately leads to sex, and intimacy and sex are 2 completely different things, says Zen poet, with all her ever-loving anxiety. So any 2 people, any one person alone can experience intimacy. We can experience intimacy all by ourselves in cooking a meal, in cleaning, in sweeping the floor. There's a certain intimacy in what we're doing because we are mindful of what we're doing. We're thinking about what we're doing. Intimacy can happen between a mother and a child. It can happen between siblings, husband and wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, grandparents. Intimacy is something as simple as cooking a meal together. You're in the kitchen together, you're cooking a meal together. You're taking a walk and holding hands, which is what Gio and I do at the mall. We hold hands as we take our walk, right? Intimacy is going grocery shopping together and talking and picking things out together, going clothing shopping together, walking on the beach and holding hands is intimacy. Giving a hug, giving a kiss on the cheek, just sitting together and watching a movie, just being with the people you love. That is intimacy. That's intimacy. Deep conversations, intimacy. Lighting a candle, having a nice meal together, intimacy. Intimacy is skin to skin, body to body. It may or may not lead to sex, but it doesn't have to. Intimacy is that time that you spend with your lover, your partner, your mate, that gives you that skin-to-skin contact. In the NICU, babies are put skin to skin. After a mother has a baby, the baby's put on the skin to skin. We need that as humans. We need those hugs, those handholds. We need that human contact. That's intimacy. All of the separation and all of the stuff that goes on in prisons when people are put in solitary confinement and put completely alone. inmates that are separated from their boyfriends, girlfriends, wives, lovers, family, and there's no contact. Some of the prisons, you can go and visit your loved one, but you can't touch them. You can't give a hug. You can't hold their hand. One of the prisons I went in when my son was in, we could give one hug when he walked into the room that I was in. He could give one hug, and he could give one hug when I left, and that was it. The guards watch, husband and wives, no touching during the visit. And the very first jail he was in, we were put in a room and he was across the table from me, and there was no hug allowed. I couldn't hold onto his hands. There was no contact. It was a no contact jail. And so when we're deprived of love, even as children, when we're deprived of intimacy, intimate touch, the hugging, the holding, the hand holding, right, the snuggling, it changes up who we are, and it can create a lot of mental health, emotional stuff. I know that. You know what's interesting is when you really think about intimacy, and you recognize what intimacy really is. Intimacy is when you read your kids a story at night and then tuck them into bed, give them a little kiss on the forehead, make sure the night light's on, and they have a glass of water. You know, that's intimacy. That's bonding, mother-child, father-child, intimacy, bonding, pure and natural and loving. And this is what is needed. And you know, I didn't have any of that as a kid, and I didn't miss it or know it because I didn't have it. So when you don't have something, in whatever relationship you're in, whatever age you're in, when you don't have that, when that's withheld from you, you don't even realize what you're missing until you hit a certain point, or you see it in other relationships. I didn't see intimacy between my mother and father. And it's not as though my dad did not want to be intimate with my mom as far as holding her hand or giving her a nice little hug. It was my mother who wanted nothing to do with intimacy from my dad. And so when you don't see that, and you grow up and you get married, you recreate what you've seen as to what you think marriage is from what you've seen. And I saw the same thing with my siblings and their spouses. That same distance, that same invisible wall up between two people, where I never saw any of my siblings and their spouses hold hands, or give a hug, or give a kiss, or it didn't happen because we didn't see it. So you grow up and you grow into a marriage or a relationship based on what you knew, what you saw, what you learned, and then comes the fall part, the breakdown, because that contact, that skin to skin in whatever form, hand holding, a little kiss on the cheek, just a touch is so very important. I am so fortunate that I have that so intimately with Gio. And I'm so grateful for him, and he's grateful for me for that. This morning about 5:30, I had a nightmare which led to an extreme panic attack. It's the first time that at 5:30 in the morning that I was as bad as I was. And he asked me what I needed. And that's so appreciated when he didn't just assume anything. He said, "What do you need? How can I help you?" And I said, "Can you get me some hot tea?" That was the first thing that I could think of that was needed. And so he did that. And then he just held on to me. "Do you want me to hold you? Can I hold you?" And he just held on to me. And just rubbed my back. And just that physical, non-sexual contact to ensure that I was safe And then once, my heart rate came down, once I started to realize that I was in a safe situation, then he held on to me and into a big bear hug. And there was a huge safety net there for me. And for someone like me who saw so much violence in my growing up, and then in how many of my relationships? 1, 2, 3, 4. Four, definitely. And then at the end of one, an act of violence against me, which was really, 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 really hard to cope with. So think about intimacy. Think about what it means to you and what it could mean in your life. It was important to me last night to do the video that I did talking about my levels of anxiety. I am such an introvert. I am probably one of the biggest introverts you would ever meet. When we go and walk the mall, okay, we go typically as soon as it opens or a few minutes before it opens, depending on how the morning's going, okay? And Gio he holds my hand the whole time we're walking. It's almost 3 miles till we're done. We calculated it to be about 2.8 miles doing 3 laps. And we could stretch that out a little bit to make it 3 miles for sure, by going like closer to the corners and stuff. But there are a couple of people that work in the mall. Very nice, friendly, outgoing. This one particular guy is so outgoing, an extrovert. He's probably in his like late 20s, early 30s. Friendly, big smile, very nice. But I get anxious when we're walking and we approach his booth. Why? I don't have a clue. There are so many people I cannot make eye contact with because there's an uneasiness that I think maybe I'll have to stop and talk with them, and that leaves me very uncomfortable. So there's so many times in situations where if intimacy had been in my life, I most likely would not be like I am today. So I think my video last night was important to me to be able to put everything out there and say, look, who you're getting, I'm so much different than who you're getting, right? I can't even begin to express how difficult so many things can be, but yet, working through them, trying to step by step and getting everything done. Okay, I did a quick pause. So something that I did last night after dropping off the keys, and I also, all the utilities now are off and done, over. I'm just waiting for my check, my security deposit. But for the past 14 months or so, I've been wearing Sky's earring. And I made the decision yesterday that it was time to go ahead and take that out and just put it aside with a little bit of ashes that I have left. And it wasn't a hard decision for me. It was just when you go through things and it involves grief or mourning, anything like that, you have to take your time. And when something feels right, you'll know it. Like it felt right. It felt like yesterday was the day to let go of the earring. He wore it. He had it in his ear from the day I met him. And of that very basic little tiny hoop. So I think looking back over growing up, gosh, I wish I had seen intimacy like I saw with like my neighbors. My neighbors, you could just see the love. There was so much love. They had so much love for each other. They were very, very sweet, very loving people. Even like my grandfather and my grandmother, who was actually my what would she be? She would be my step aunt. She'd be my step aunt. My grandpop, his wife left him. So my mom's mom left her husband, my grandpop, and left the 3 kids, my mother and her 2 brothers, when they were really little. Like my mom was like 2. And so my grandpop remarried my mom's mother's sister, so my grandmother's sister, my maternal grandmother's sister. So she would actually be my step aunt, but became my grandmother by law. There was no intimacy there either. My aunts and uncles, no, nothing. As a matter of fact, I saw one of my uncles try and run down my aunt. He was intoxicated, and he was in a truck, and he was trying to run my aunt over. He was trying to run her over. I was younger than 10. I'm witnessing this. So when I see 2 people, and I love those little clips on TikTok and stuff, where you see these older folks and they're in their 80s and 90s, and they're just so in love. Oh my gosh, my heart. When Sky was working at Lowe's, he sent me a picture of an elderly couple in Lowe's walking. They were walking down the aisle, okay, in one of the aisles, and they were walking arm in arm. They had to have been in their late 80s. And he snapped a picture of them, and he sent it to me. And he said, I want this to be us. It was just so sweet. So when you think about intimacy, you think about your children sitting down and having talks with them, if they'll talk with you, your husband, your wife, your mom, your dad, your siblings, aunts, uncles, grandparents, your best friend. It's so important to do that. I feel like there's been so much trauma in my life. Like if I sat with you guys and told you every single incident of trauma that I've experienced since my first memory, it would probably take a couple of days. So I have a diagnosis of complex post-traumatic stress disorder. Not just PTSD, but complex, which is multiple traumas, multiple times. And so that adds to the generalized anxiety, social anxiety, agoraphobia, severe panic attacks, OCD, major depressive disorder, like all these things that are listed in my paperwork, right? Yeah. So try that intimacy thing. See how it works for you. And like I said, if you're not subscribed, if you'd hit the subscribe button, it doesn't cost anything. I don't have a GoFundMe or a little coffee thing, or I don't have any of that. I don't do lives. I'm asking if you'd hit the subscribe and if you'd hit the like. See if I can get closer to 1,000 subscribers. I know I said I wasn't interested in monetizing, but I'd like to see if I get to 1,000 if I could. Expenses here in the household have changed with buying the house and getting the car and the furniture and the things, you know, and I don't know work-wise what I can do and do well at this stage. Gio is working on my website. He has one page that's being very stubborn, and even that I would need to get ads on the blog to make any kind of money. So in another, what did I say, next June, I reach full retirement age, and then that changes things up a little bit with Social Security. And I don't know what I can do, like what I can do for work. He's a IT specialist, software developer, chemical engineer, and a painter. He has so many paintings. I'll have to bring all the paintings up. I'll have to get them all in one place and show you all of his paintings. We're going to take some pictures, do some digital art. If anybody would be interested in buying any of his paintings or a digital art print, please let me know in the comments and I'll hook you up. But I can show you what all he's done so far. And he's going to start painting in the basement. We don't have a fan system yet going, so he's not sure how much he can do in the basement without some kind of exhaust system because of the smell of the paint and the cleaner. Anyway, I'm going to go. That's that. Thank you for being here. I am not trying to scare anybody or, you know, with my videos and just being really honest as to this is what I'm going through and this is who I am. And I don't know what form of therapy, if any, can help me at this point. I think at 65 3/4, I think I'm kind of like, this is it for the rest of my life, however long that is. And so this I can do, you know, and just being really honest. I want to see if I can get George to sit with me and then we just talk about things, you know, ask each other questions so that you get to know him a little bit better. And maybe I'll learn some things about him too. And you'll learn things about me and he'll learn things about me. But I'd like to do that too and kind of get him more included in the channel. So I'm going to go. Thank you for being here. Hit the subscribe, hit the like if you would. And I'll talk to you soon.